Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's first Friday Toast of the Arts show. Every first Friday, Nancy and I get the opportunity to interview and chat with artists in residence that are part of the National Parks Arts Foundation program. NPAF is what we call them. They're awesome. And the founder is Tanya Ortega. And basically, Tanya kicks butt. I'm just going to say that as we get into this.
They amazing woman.
Amazing. It's an amazing organization, amazing program where if you're an artist, a photographer, a writer, a dancer, a filmmaker, musician, songwriter, you name it, whatever your creative outlet is and work, your professional work is, they really have unique programs where you can stay like in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park for a month. Dry-Tortugas on your own island, Loggerhead Key. You have to have a friend, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Places like Chaco Canyon out in northwest New Mexico. Nancy and I have been there. It's very, oh man, it is the Southwest, to the epitome. Fort Union out there, Death Valley, you name it. So check out nationalparksartsfoundation.org today. We're super excited to chat with Ian Wilson, who's an amazing photographer, and Austin-Armstrong, who does this incredible ancient printmaking. So we're going from the ancient, Nancy was saying this thing, going from the ancient to the modern. But the two of them went to Dry-Tortugas, and this is actually a different program than their normal program from NPAF. This is also done, I think, through the Key West Art Guild. There's an art association out there, so it's different. But welcome, guys. How are you?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us on.
Hey, cool. You guys, this is so cool because you're from Key West, both of you. Are you both born and raised there?
Actually, the upper Key West, the upper Keys. I'm from Key Largo and Austin's from Tavernier. So the first two islands are part of the archipelago. Key West is actually 2 hours from us, but we consider, the whole island chain is kind of just the Conch Republic, really.
90 miles north of Key West, just up US 1.
So yeah, because we didn't go south where you guys are. We were in the Everglades, which actually how we ended up on our what we now call the Love Your Parks tour.
Cool.
Documenting national parks was the Everglades, which kind of just turned us around and went, that's it, we're doing it. And now we're still on the road like crazy people. But you guys are south of that. So how far is Dry-Tortugas and Loggerhead Key for you guys from where you are?
So if you were to drive to Key West, that would be a 90-mile drive. And then Loggerhead Key is another 70 miles west of Key West. So from where we live to Loggerhead Key, we're at 180 miles. It would take you to get there by boat.
So,
4 or 5 hours from where we live, conservatively. But most people will end up driving their boat on a trailer to Key West. And then it's a little bit easier to just take a straight shot from Key West. And gas for your car is cheaper than gas for your boat, so save a little bit of money too, because it's hard to get down to the Dry-Tortugas. Very difficult.
You have to fly or take a boat.
Right. And I know you guys know about that kind of thing, right? Being where you're from. And Austin, you're into boating, right? And diving?
Yeah, that's kind of how I got into the Gyotaku art form. Is I've always been on the boat, free diving, spearfishing, fishing with a hook and line, and there's so much more that you can do with a fish besides just take the fillets off it, if you're going to end up killing the fish, of course. And Gyotaku is a great way to kind of permanently capture what that specific fish looked like and show other people that might not have the chance to do it themselves.
It's interesting too with your location and then Ian looking at your photography, and it's ianwilsonmedia.com, right? For your website for everyone. Incredible work. And I love what you're doing in the Everglades. I want to talk about that. And both of you seem very conservation forward, thinking about what's happening in the environment. Ian, for you, what was it that got you to apply, being that you're not that far away? Some people will say, oh, what's the difference? I know there's a difference.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty funny. It was probably 4 years ago. I was traveling through Everglades National Park and I actually saw a pamphlet on, oddly enough, a bathroom in Everglades for the Dry-Tortugas Artist in Residency.
No way.
Oh, wow.
I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time and I just kind of we saw it and we were like, it looks like a really cool opportunity. Let's apply. And so we have been, and that's where we first heard of it, and took off from there and applied for it's been a couple of years where we've been going for it. And, we've since, my ex-girlfriend and I have since parted. still great friends, and she's very supportive. She's super happy when Austin and I found out that we were awarded this year's residency program. But that it was really just, you know, experiencing the other national park we have here in South Florida that, you know, just by chance, it led to that. And then the Dry-Tortugas has always been, I went there 5 years ago with my dad. We really fell in love with it. We were aware of how special of a place it was. And so just to get to see this opportunity that provided us a 30-day, you know, time
Amazing
window to live there, it just kind of, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, I have to do that. That was something that really struck out as, like, you know, I have to experience. I try to do this.
When you were there, and I want to talk about you guys, all the work you have to do to get into this is such, like you were saying, you've been chasing this for a while.
Yeah.
And I think most artists and residents that go to the Dry-Tortugas have been chasing it for a while. And it's not an easy one. It's only once a year normally. I know they doubled up a little bit this year, but and hurricanes have happened during, you know, some of the artists going there, and you have to be prepared. But I know with all the photography you've done in Everglades, the Keys, and everywhere you've been, what was the difference going over to the Keys? And I'll ask the same of you, Austin, with, you know, everything that you do too, in boating, diving, fishing. When you were there, is there a difference that you saw being on an island that basically doesn't have that much of a human footprint versus the places you've been and filmed, even though it's still protected, but this is more of the wilderness area?
Yeah. Night and day. I mean, seriously, it's really, we've said it a couple times now, but it was like stepping back in time. Just, you know, so we grew up in a place where we're pursuing specific species, and so we've grown accustomed to seeing certain sizes of these fish out here in our local waters. And just like, you know, an immediate observation we had when we first got to the Tortugas was how much larger the fisheries were. You know, the fish were that we normally target up here, they were, you know, 12 to 14 inch size. When we go to the Tortugas, we were seeing 20, 25, you know, sizes we'd never really seen before, 36-inch fish. This is just one example of specifically the hogfish. And the coral life was incredible. It was everywhere. It was against, you know, the man-made structures, and you know, you don't see that here in the Upper Keys, where it's growing everywhere. There is no place where it doesn't grow, really. And yeah, just the abundance of the rich an ecosystem working well. It's pretty stark, and unfortunately, we're living in a place right now. It's a lot of people travel through the Upper Keys specifically. The entirety of the Keys archipelago is getting more and more populated every year. More fish. People know how to fish. You know, they're learning how to fish better and better every year. And so, you know, naturally the ecosystems that we have up here are getting hit a little harder and harder. And it's been something we've noticed pretty, you know, every year by year since we were younger. So that was, you know, really.
Yeah, Lisa, you asked a pretty good question earlier. You know, it's still part of the same island chain, but what's the difference? You know, why can't you just accomplish the same mission that you were on in the Tortugas, where you live in the Upper Keys? And biggest difference is there's a road that connects the rest of the Keys to the mainland of Florida. And in the mainland of Florida, you have Miami, a massive urban sprawling area, which is only 50 miles away. A lot of people in Miami consider the Keys to be part of their backyard. So the general rule of thumb with health of reefs and populations of fish stocks is the further that you get away from large population centers, the more abundant the fish life is, the healthier the coral reef is. And the fact that there's no road that connects the Tortugas to the rest of the Keys or the mainland of Florida is the number one factor as to how healthy it is down there. And of course, you know, 70 miles by boat is not easy to accomplish without knowing what you're doing and the resources to get there. And then there's only one ferry a day that goes out there, and people sign up and wait months and months and months to go. So that's the biggest difference is even though it's part of the same island chain, it's just its remoteness.
I love that. You know, it's something, I mean, we travel full time documenting parks and public lands, and you see parks that really do get trampled. You know, we say, don't love your park, or it's a love your park tour that we're on, but it's like, don't overlove your parks. We need to have this balance. And the
Mhm.
wilderness areas, I think one of the things with this residency that is so key is you're able to bring back photography, prints, art, you know, things that you're able to tell us what it's like, because we can't all go there. If we keep doing that to everywhere, we won't have that, you know, web of life that is crucial. And I think you guys really, I love what you're doing and being conservation forward. Like I was saying, it's crucial, and you see it in photography. I don't know, Ian, for you, like as we travel, I'm having a hard time getting wilderness or wild photos without power lines, without smog, without human trash. I mean, it sucks. You know?
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, you know, even in a place like the Tortugas, it was also hard to do that. You know, There was, you know, we still had activity from boaters, fishermen traveling out there for the day. What, like, given it wasn't as much, nowhere near compares to what we have on the like mainland part portion of the archipelago. But, you know, there's still trash on the islands. There's still boaters coming out there and stuff like that. But yeah, we were very fortunate. We had like to see those untouched corners that we could sneak away and really see like wilderness and we brought a little boat with us, which really
that's cool.
further allowed us to explore some of the more remote parts of the park. Really, there are some remote sections we wish we could have gotten to, but the boat really allowed us to explore further than we ever thought would be possible, really, without one.
Oh, wow. So I don't think that a lot of the residents have that. Did you go deep diving? Like deep diving?
No, so inside the boundaries of the national park and down in the Dry-Tortugas, the water actually there's not a lot of deep water. Outside the boundaries of the park, there is some other areas. The Tortugas Bank, which is a well-known fishing area, can get deeper, but we kind of had to play our cards right. You know, the remoteness of the Tortugas makes it a little bit more risky to go further and further away from our island. So 14-foot inflatable dinghy was vital to accomplish.
You had an inflatable dinghy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we were still able to have an amazing experience in shallower depths and within a close distance from Loggerhead Key and Garden Key, where Fort Jefferson is. There's abundance of life just right there.
In shallow water.
And we were also lucky enough to be treated like royalty by the park staff, and we got to accompany them on a couple different boat trips on their bigger vessels to some first of the park that we would not have been able to get to on our own. So we can't thank the people down at Dry-Tortugas enough for the hospitality.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Nancy, I think this kind of reminds me of Kenya a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
You can hear us. Sorry.
No, yeah, I know there's a little internet thingy. It'll come together.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
No, I know I have in storage slides, probably between 30,000-40,000 slides of Africa.
When changes on it every day. Yeah, it's boxes.
Whatever.
I carried them.
When I first went visiting, and then when I lived there, and I could tell the difference at water holes where when I first went to Kenya, you would see 20, 25 species all at the same water hole. 10, 15 years later, 3 or 4 species. So I know that we need to do something for the planet. We absolutely, as humans, need to not have so much stuff, and we need to pull back who we are and what we do if we care about anything other than our own lives and our own family. We have to really think in the future, do we care? Or is it, okay, I'm here now, so make hay while the sun shines, and who cares after?
Yeah.
That's our choice. And it's a tough choice because, you know, when you're having fun and you're doing whatever and everything's convenience is, to me now in my mind, has become a dirty word, because that's the throwaway society. And I look at places like the Tortugas, I look at Kenya, I look at South Africa, I look at the places where you might go swimming, scuba diving, and as you're photographing a turtle, here comes a soda cup with a straw floating by, which is what I used to see after so many years in Africa. At first, when you went, you didn't see any of that. And then later, you did. And I'm hoping that you guys didn't see any of that.
Not as much as you would in other parts of the planet that might be closer to those large urban areas. There was still beach debris. And we weren't allowed to clean it up because they do marine debris research, and they want to know how much of this trash is washing up to kind of have an idea of what they're facing. So they strategically clean the beaches every few months or weeks, or I'm not sure what the time frame is, but when they do it, they're meticulously documenting what they're finding, where they're finding it, and the volumes of it.
Wow,
interesting.
Because it comes in.
When we got there.
I mean, even when you think about the Keys as a whole and the Everglades area and everything, like I look at the Everglades as you get a lot of invasive species and so it's kind of like everything moving in, whether or not you're being clean on the islands, it's coming in.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So your experience there, does that push you forward even more with your conservation values as a photographer, and also with what you're doing in print and boating and fishing? That this kind of, when you see wilderness because when we think about wilderness, we're thinking out in the mountains. We never really think about ocean wilderness. I mean, you guys probably do, but mainlanders maybe not. But when you're out in a wilderness area in the ocean and seeing more of the biodiversity, and that it is there when we let it be, does that push you forward even more with your stance of what you do, your point of views of photography and craft?
Yeah, it's crazy. I've actually had to rethink my whole approach to conservation photography, because there's a side of me that obviously wants to portray, showcase this beautiful natural place and the pristineness and all the incredible things that you see here. But at the same time, I'm afraid of showing that, because the last thing I do is blow it up and introduce more and more people to that ecosystem and give it
and trash
it. And so it's really like, it's this horrible dilemma that I don't know tiptoe around that. I'm still figuring that out, and that's something I'm just going to try and have to work out as we move forward, and just delicately, be specific with what I release, what kind of images I choose to release. There's stuff that I will, no doubtedly hold to myself, and others which might be better suited for the world. But that's something that's my personal where I'm currently at.
So I totally get where you're coming from, because we deal with that all the time. So the only thing I can say as an older person, education is key to everything. You have to educate. You can't shut off, because they'll find it anyway. So you have to, in a nice way, educate, not in a big mean, you shall do this and
you suck for throwing your soda can. Which is what we want to say.
You can't do that, but you have to educate. And so when you find species and show them, and people can then, oh, wow, look at the beauty in that. I'm hoping, praying that will keep them from being lazy, dirty slobs, whoopsie, and throwing trash around.
Yeah.
It goes beyond it's the trash. It's so many things, it is about.
It's so easy to put the trash where the trash belongs.
Yeah.
It just isn't that hard.
Yeah, it's just a simple preventing disrespect, and for the disrespect in the first place, in that whatever manner that might be. And down here, unfortunately, that can be a lot. And the approach that some people take to fishing or whatever it might be, like fueling your boat and just being cautious of overspill and little things like that can inevitably build up to be the 1,000 tiny cuts that are what they say down here is what kills our coral reefs. It's death by 1,000 tiny cuts. All those little things that.
That's interesting. When we went to the Everglades and we went out with, I believe his name was Rob Eichley, I don't want to say it wrong, but he ended up doing more boating out in Texas somewhere. but he took us out on a boat. He was with the National Parks Conservation Association at that point and showed us how they were changing the boating laws. And it was polling and trolling, which we thought sounded funny. Of course, we're out, but it was really interesting about going out and being slow out in the water because of nesting birds and what was underneath and all of that. And he also explained that really people can just get a boat and start going out in the water. And we didn't realize that until we were in the Everglades. And that's kind of part of that. Anybody could have a boat.
Yeah.
Just go to a boat store. If you got
No
money, buy your boat,
required.
get out in the water and go for it, right?
Yeah, no license required.
Yeah. I thought, like, isn't it, I mean, you can drive drunk or steer drunk or.
We see it all the time. Yeah, people.
Really?
Missing channel markers. There's, missing channel markers running aground on, delicate flats, seagrass. They, run into the mangroves. There's a lot of uneducated.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately.
So we need to do something about boating.
Yeah.
It seems like to me, I wonder about airboats. What do you think about airboats?
Horribly. Way too loud.
Okay, so I'm not alone.
Way too loud.
No,
they're too loud.
If you have to put on earmuffs to go on an airboat ride, I can't
It's too loud.
What a daily airboat tour does to, the bird. I don't know, just like what it used to be before them. The noise pollution is equally as bad in my opinion. It's,
I totally agree. Like we went on an airboat once, and then when we got
off, in the Everglades.
I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
The gators were hauling. No. They were so scared.
No. Because
like baby gators
noise
and
is also vibrations that the wildlife have to deal with. No. No.
I mean, they get you to really incredible parts of the park, but I just think that's something that, and innovation could be. I just think they need to innovate. I just think
Can't they muffle them like they do cars?
I personally don't know that.
Call Elon.
I hope so. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's call Elon Musk. Muffle the airboats.
So Austin, you go out on boats, right? Tell us a little bit about what you do on boats, and then also now you're playing in the dinghy. And I'm going to say the dinghy. I know that you guys froze up there, but I don't know if you're there. Okay, you're there. The dinghy. Last time I went on a dinghy was in South Africa when I lived in South Africa, and I was like in graduating high school. Went out with my friends who did fish, and there were hammerhead sharks all around our dinghy. And I'm like, this is a dinghy. These are hammerhead sharks. This is a dinghy. I see the shore and I would like to go to the shore now. And they're like, dude, no, this is so cool. And I'm like, it is cool. But this is a dinghy and these are hammerhead sharks. And I can see little teethy things. So no. But going out in a dinghy, tell us a little bit about your boating experience and diving experience. And then I want to hear also a little bit about the printmaking, because it seems that you're really taking the ancient art, and then also if you're going to eat a fish, you can do more than one thing with fish. And it's a little bit, seems better than sticking the deer head up on the wall in a way, you know?
Yeah, I was born and raised down here in the Keys. So we're a tiny island surrounded by water. So boating is an integral part of most people's lives. And when you grow up down here, you start doing it at a pretty young age. So it's kind of second nature for me, but I definitely had never pushed the limits on something inflatable like we did down in the Tortugas. Surely we're on large fiberglass boats with multiple engines on the back, high and dry out of the water. So we were much closer to the life that we were interacting with on the dinghy. I mean, the water line is about 10 inches from the side of the boat. And we actually were at a spot and we had a little shark that was hanging around us. And,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was trying to get free meals from us, and he was getting a little fired up and got a little too close for the dinghy for our comfort too. Generally, inflatable boats and sharp objects don't mix, whether that's a shark's tooth or a fish's spine or a fish hook. So we had to be a bit more cautious than we normally are up here, or know the waters a bit better, or we are on bigger vessels, or closer to people that can come rescue us. We had to be pretty calculated in what we were doing down in the Tortugas, just due to the remoteness of the park and the severity of the situation that would occur if the dinghy were to pop or deflate, or we would lose power. Yeah,
and we even did have some close calls.
Yeah, by the end of the trip, that the engine of that dinghy was held together by super glue and zip ties and a bunch of tape. We had to do some. Yeah, but that's part of the Tortugas lifestyle, is just being flexible. I mean, when you're separated from the closest city by 70 miles of open ocean, you have to be able to improvise, and that's a lot of the staff members down there were good evidence of that.
Yeah.
That's but did you guys have? Do you have to do all the tests like everyone before? Like, we've interviewed a lot of the artists that have gone to Dry-Tortugas, and they had to be prepared for hurricanes and all these, like, they really had to know what to do if something happened.
Yeah, the park system's part of the Department of the Interior, so they have protocols for incidents. So we did an incident command courses before that we were out in the Tortugas, and we actually went through 2 incidents. You know, we had Tropical Storm Fred and Tropical Storm Ida that passed by the national park. So they do categorize tropical storms and hurricanes as incidents. So then, you know, you have your incident commander, and we were lucky enough that they allowed us to stay for both of the storms, and we were able to kind of capture some of those images, or Ian was, and we were able to.
They moved us to Garden Key for both of those storms, by the way. Just
so so you're a little safer, but you're still out there, and you get to be part of it, though. There's something magical about really being part of it.
And if it was a category 1, we would have had to have been evacuated, I believe.
Right.
But since storms maintained their tropical storm strength, and they were far enough away from us, we were allowed to stay. And I think it made up a little less than 2 weeks of our entire month, actually. We were almost split right down the middle for both islands. It gave us this really cool perspective of, you know, how the park really works, and just getting both the experience of both worlds out there.
That's cool.
So would you guys do it again?
I wish we could have stayed for another month.
Yeah, we're ready to go back.
Really? So I know this is like for some people, this is like
awesome.
Okay, that was a really cool experience, but I'm off to doing something else that was hard. Was it hard for you guys? Were you hungry? Were you thirsty?
I think the hardest part was before we left. I mean, just the stress of planning, provisioning, all of the anxiety of what it's going to be like. Are you bringing everything that we need? Are we going to be able to complete this mission? Once we got there, I mean, we were in paradise. That was everything we could have asked for and more. I mean, our only responsibilities for a month were to take pictures, catch fish, make art, cook our own meals on a beautiful private island. I mean, I just don't think it can get much better than that. So we're dying to get back.
You ate your art subjects, though. So explain this. I want to get into this printmaking thing, this ancient.
Yeah, I definitely would like to, kind of tell you guys a bit about the origins of Gyotaku. So it's traditional. It's a Japanese art form that was created in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And
these Japanese fishermen just wanted a way to kind of prove what they were saying was true. Everyone has their fish story. Oh, the fish was this big, and everyone's yeah, right. And they also, when they fished in various types of tournaments, needed a way to legitimize their catches and have proof of the size of them. So the fishermen would take on the boats with them rolls of rice paper and sumi ink. And sumi ink is made of soot, which is a burnt plant matter. It's a stick of ink that you add water to and create a liquid ink.
Yeah.
And you have your subject, which is a fish. And you apply the sumi ink to the actual fish itself, and you position it how you want it, and you do heavy ink in certain areas, light ink in other areas to try to kind of replicate the shading of the subject. And then you'll take a piece of rice paper and you'll lay that on top of the fish, and you'll begin to rub and ensure that the fish is contacting the paper in all of the right ways and places. And then you'll carefully, when you think you've created that perfect print, you'll peel that rice paper off and you'll see what you're working with. And sometimes you'll put too much ink, sometimes you won't put enough, sometimes you forget to press in a certain area and you'll miss a spot. So it's kind of a system of trials and errors until you have a print that you're satisfied with. And then
so the fish is going to be like that. It's not flat.
Yeah, not
going to
completely
have
flat.
bumps and stuff like that. So when you put the paper on and I'm guessing that you're smoothing the paper over before you have to mold it.
Are you
across
massaging the
kind of
fish is what
thing,
she
but-
wants to know.
Yeah. Well, no,
That's
because
kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, because otherwise, how would you get to
Ian,
all
did he sing to the fish while he was doing this?
the nooks and crannies?
Maybe not to the fish, but he's saying a lot in general.
Yeah,
So-
it takes a lot of finesse and
Yeah.
concentration because you don't want to wrinkle the paper.
Yeah.
I have some little tips and tricks that I can kind of share with. I use foam pads to kind of create an area around the fish to where I can lay the paper, and it kind of helps me get that.
So when you come to the fins,
But definitely
like the
for
fins
each.
have.
Oh, wow. You guys
subject.
are, hold on.
Okay.
There's an internet glitchy. Okay. Let him finish talk about foam. Are you
Okay.
there? We got like an internet thing going in and out here, but we're getting there.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, go back to the foam. You got so that's like your cradle, right? For the fish?
Exactly. Yeah, it helps Nancy was asking about the fins of the fish. I
Yeah.
put them under the fins to kind of provide some support when I'm pushing that paper on there.
Mm.
I can use them to spread the fins out so that they stay erected because the
Mm.
fish fins are going to want to go back down and be streamlined if you don't kind of find a way to secure them or fasten them down.
Okay.
Mm.
And I mean, it was a really challenging environment to make the Giyotaku prints because it's quite warm out in the Tortugas, especially during the month of August, which in South Florida is one of the hottest months of the year.
Mhm.
And all of the fish were consumed for food, so we wanted to keep them cold. So you take the fish out of the ice and prepare it to be printed. You have a cold fish in a hot room, and that fish kind of sweats and compensates, and that can interfere with the transfer between the paper and the ink.
Wow.
And wash out some of those details. So that was really challenging to print
I
down there.
bet.
We were able to make it happen
A
and
lot of trial and error.
come back with some pretty good stuff.
Now, are you
So-
able to take
and
the
then
print
you-
and replicate it?
Yeah, there's various ways where you can scan those
Yeah.
and make reproductions. And the awesome thing about Giyotaku is that for one fish subject, you can have multiple original prints that are all they're unique differences between each one, but it's all the same fish.
Okay,
It's so-
okay.
It so
so-
reminds me of when I was probably 12, 13, like Charles Darwin and books about him and all his illustration. Your prints remind me of that.
yeah.
What got me so inspired to just go out in the wilderness and go see animals, from plants up sea creatures, animals, whatever, up to the stars.
Mhm.
I'm not a big city person.
No, but it's so cool because it also
Yeah.
it makes them look like they're fossilized to me. When I first saw your art, I was like, oh, it's a fossil fit. Because I get off on that, man. That's like some crazy, like some of the fossils that we saw in Colorado, like
Yeah.
fossiled flies, hydrangeas. And I'm like, I didn't even think like a hydrangea would be fossilized in Colorado like
Mhm.
millions of years ago. But here it is. That's some cool stuff. But it does look fossilized to me. And
Yeah.
it's got this like ancient look to it. And I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just as a different way of looking at a fish. And it also ties back to, there's a lot of historians and people doing their family history research, and they do rubbings, like you can do it on coins and stuff like that, but it's
Mhm.
not like an art form. They do it on tombs.
Yeah.
And so they can go, and because you
Mm.
can't read tombs as they get older, and if they're not being kept up, and you're trying to read who died here and like it's worn away, it's the only way to kind of bring out.
Well, Giyotaku is the specific art form of the Japanese style of printing fish. I mean, nature printing is all over the world. I mean, people are amazing at printing all different types of plants and flowers and leaves. And I've even seen people that have done, terrestrial fauna like birds and other types of animals. So it's definitely, Giyotaku is specific to fish. in the black and white, but there's people that do color prints. I mean, you can really get creative with it. And, you know,
Wow.
like any other art form, you can be a traditionalist, or you can be a bit more creative and apply your own twist to it.
It's
Wow.
interesting too, because it's still realism.
Yeah,
It's a form of realism.
It's kind of disappointing to see a picture of a print compared to when you see it up close with your own 2 eyes, because you can get really close to it and you can see every little detail at each individual scale. What's in Otaku is that each fish is different in their own unique ways. So each print kind of is able to capture those unique differences between each.
Oh, wow. How many scales on the same size fish? Are they going to be different?
No, the scales are generally going to be the same size for if the fish are the same size, but colorations can be different.
And number of scales? Do you think it's different?
Man, I don't know. I've never sat there and counted all the scales on a big fish.
Well, now
dude,
you know he's
come
going to
on.
sing and count the scales.
That might take a long time.
So you guys would go back. Okay, I like this.
Wow.
You also did night photography, and it looked like you guys had some nice times under the stars.
Amazing times under the stars.
Was that different also for being up in the Upper Keys, you know, where you live versus out there?
Yeah, it was incredible. It was amazing just seeing the Milky, like actually having a visual on the Milky Way at night and seeing it stretch across the entire sky, and you know, knowing, and it wasn't just like, oh, there's like a kind of odd cloud looking shape. It was pretty significant, and you know, the best stars the week we got there, we arrived on a new moon, and there was low humidity, so we got some really great conditions to get some awesome night skies out there. And then it kind of turned away from that later in the month. We got more humid skies with the storms that came through, so it was a bit more obscured. But the first week we had some really special time. We had very long days, you know, long days on the water fishing, attempting to take photos and catch fish for Austin's project. But we'd show up and walk out on the porch, and you'd see the sky, and it was hard to go inside and go to bed when you knew what was going on outside. So that was just.
So you should count the stars in the Milky Way, and you should count fish scales.
Yeah, really. There's a. So you also did underwater photography, and you do that too.
That's so cool.
So how much gear are you carrying to do this kind of project?
I'm a minimalist. I like to have a small setup, and the dinghy didn't allow for much to be brought. We were packed.
Did you name the dinghy? This is important.
It's called the Dorito, yeah, and it's
the Dorito.
Yeah, it's a 14-foot red or orange dinghy that was lent to us by a good friend of ours who had named it, but we stuck with it, and but yeah, it's called the Dorito, 14-foot, and we were packed tight, so just camera gear was had to be very limited, and I had to be very conscious with what I was bringing every day, and I'd have to set things up before we left the house with the intention of knowing what I was going to document that day, or having an idea of what I was going to document that day. And I had 2 cameras. One was in a backpack, and then one was in the water housing at full at all times. So it's just two in case for different scenarios. And
Awesome.
When it rained as well, or when we got or whatever. So I was able to shoot in all sorts of conditions, which you have to be versatile in a place like that. Photographer, you can.
Absolutely.
Did you see any fish, bird, plant, animal that you've never seen before?
Turtle hatchlings.
Yeah,
we were lucky enough to observe loggerhead turtle nest hatch out. Generally, they occur when it's dark between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. But we were lucky enough to see one happen in the daytime around 11:30 in the morning. And I mean, up here in the Upper Keys, we do a lot of diving out at the reef and see, full-grown turtles, but never seen a hatchling before.
Oh, cool!
So that was incredible. That was one of the top moments of the month for sure.
And they boil out of the sand. It's very crazy experience to watch happen. There's one that sits out. They finally pop through the hole. It's like a divot in the sand, and it almost looks like it's imploding on itself. And you see these pulses happening every 1 to 2 minutes of the whole sand.
Wow!
Pulse, and then it relaxes, and then it pulses again every minute. And then after an hour and a half, the one that was stuck in the sand finally got out, and then it just pops, and it's just it's over in a matter of minutes. It was
wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And then they run to the shore. or waddle to the shore, whatever they
Yep.
Yeah,
go
they're
to.
actually they're pretty lively when
Yeah.
they get out of that hole. They book it right
Yeah,
to
they-
the shore, and
they
they're pretty
sprint.
fast too. So it's starts and it's over in within 5 minutes.
Isn't
great
it
where to
wild how
go.
nature works? You want to go like,
Yeah.
did your mama tell you while you were in the egg, you need to haul, you need
Yeah.
to get to that
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
like the whole time, like you need to do that.
Oh,
Go be like the wind, you know?
They know
That's
there's
so cool.
everything after them. You know, it's just is time to, you know, sprint as fast as they possibly can to the water, because it's, you know, birds, fish in the water already waiting for them. There's a lot of like reef right off the sand, which we swam and witnessed in person. We saw fish eating turtles, and that just like the natural cycle of life, but it's just all these you know, adversities that they face immediately right off the bat. So it's just,
despite their best
crazy.
efforts, we learned that 1 in 1,000 turtle hatchlings survive to reproductive age. So they have a pretty slim chance.
yeah.
Wow.
Wow. And do you have that urge
Like
to
you have
save
to go
them? If you see a
protect
fish
them?
going after them, you're like, no, let it be the one.
Yeah.
Of course,
Oh.
You don't wanna
you're not allowed.
interfere,
You're not allowed to interfere.
I know,
with,
you don't do it.
can't.
Don't do it.
I think it's worse.
It's like,
But
yeah.
we also had a really amazing opportunity to accompany one of the natural resource interns on a shoreline mapping expedition of Long Key, which
Oh.
is that's for the great birds' nests. So these birds, we see them all the time here in the Upper Keys, but we see them flying around the sky. There's just a few places that they will land and nest. And that was also something that was once in a lifetime. No one else gets to do. And we
Wow.
feel so lucky to have been able to
That's
accompany
cool.
the intern on that trip.
Thanks, Hannah.
Oh
Hannah,
my
Jess,
gosh,
and
that
Chris.
is awesome. You guys, you guys also had like it's just a once in a lifetime kind of experience, right? You've
Yeah.
been chasing it, you finally get it, and it's like awesome. Would you go to another park residency, one of the other ones through the National Parks Arts Foundation, like Hawaii Volcanoes, or would you do something on the mainland like Chaco or Big Bend or Death Valley, or do you have to be in the water?
It would be interesting to kind of, I think we discussed this a little bit, and to do like a duo partnership on another residency to create something. I think we would, you know, we would want to be near the water, especially for Austin's project.
I mean,
Yeah,
I would
you'd
tag
need fish.
along with Ian to any national park, you name it, I'm going. But as far as the
There are
top-
things like pupfish and trout.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
we just
Or more natural printing maybe, and then you transition into that if that was.
a month
There's
is a long
ferns.
time to spend in one place and figure out a way to catch one fish. But yeah, like Ian said, there's other subjects that I can make.
There's fungus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the whole like gills, like I would do it, you know, but it's really, you've got my mind thinking of all of that, because like I'm all into like all the artists that, you know, come on the shows through NPAF, like they're, you know, we're always out in the wilderness and I'm all like, oh man, I need to record this sound. And then I'm like,
yeah,
I can hear this over here. You know, it's like to be able to be in these pristine places and really experience them in a way without hearing a car in the background or an airplane. I mean, you're talking about noise pollution. There's, you know, the sound and noise pollution, but there's light pollution.
Yeah.
You know, even looking at photography, how we do photography at night, you know, shining lights, are we doing harm? I mean, it just gets to this point of, wow, you know, we want to bring this back to people, and there's so many ways. And I think what you're doing, Austin, is really cool. And what you're doing photography wise is awesome. I think you're really bringing it to people to understand things they've never seen and may not ever see. And that helps, you know, just on your conservation thought, you know, when they brought out that whole campaign of don't harpoon the whales, save the whale, people from inlands that have never seen a whale helped to save the whale.
Yeah.
So, you know, it goes far with what art can do and what messaging can do, and the beauty and showcasing the beauty. I think it's really cool what you're doing. And are you going to be doing events? Like, how do we all get to see the work that you've been creating and probably still creating, right?
Yeah, we're excited. We actually just hosted one of our first events last Thursday. Here is a local event at a local art walk that we have, very community focused, and we had a fantastic turnout. A lot of local support and friends and family that we knew, and just the community in general came out and support. It was incredible. Really, could not have gone any better. And hopefully, we're going to do some more down the line and work with the Key West Arts and Historical Society. They're the sponsors of the stipend for the opportunity in the first place, and we're hoping we're going to do something with them in Key West. And where that will be, we're not quite sure yet, but it seems like we're pretty, going to try and aim high and do an exhibit in some of the historical old buildings that they have down there, and so we're still brainstorming all those thoughts, and hopefully do some more here. And
awesome.
So if anyone's interested at kind of following along on the journey and would up to date with events in the future, new pieces of work from us, best way would be on Instagram. They can follow my Instagram at Armstrong_originals, and that's all focused on the Gyo-Taku art, and that's where I post notifications for galleries and pieces that I'm working on. And then Ian is
mine's just Ian Wilson, IANWILSONN, 2 N's in Wilson, at Ian Wilson.
Cool.
All right, guys, this is awesome. Yeah, because Navarro is the other. Yeah, it's Ian Wilson Navarro. That's the extra N. I'm like, don't make me have typos,
Yeah.
I do that.
Hopefully we do a lot. We really want to exhibit more. There's a lot to show, and it's a cool. A lot of people were interested in it. Very fortunate for that. And
yeah, we just feel like the luckiest guys on the planet after this month we had out there. I mean, I just couldn't thank the Arts Foundation enough, Tanya, and the people at Dry-Tortugas, Curtis, Hall, and
everybody, their whole team.
Yeah, everyone who's down there. I mean, we would do it again in a heartbeat, and that definitely holds a very, very special place in both of our hearts after that experience that we had.
You guys are it's so cool that you guys went. And
yes.
It's always so exciting. Like, you just want to know, like, while you guys are there, you hear, okay, they're off and running, and you're like, you're off the grid. Like, it's seriously off the grid. And you're like, but no, come on. We want to know what's going on. What did you see today? You're going to have to wait. And I think is people knowing that you're out there, we're all you just wish you could see the day to day. And there's a beauty to that, of not knowing and waiting for the exhibit, waiting to see what comes later, and also I think a beauty to completely disconnect. And that's the last thing to ask you guys, to be able to completely 100% disconnect social media and all of that had to be, joyous. And it's got to be.
That's amazing. Austin did a little better than I did. He actually managed to disconnect the entire month, but on Garden Key, I couldn't help myself. They have a little Wi-Fi access over there to connect. I wanted to connect with a few people and send some messages out, and just
like, we're alive.
Luckily, was not enough to really go on YouTube or watch videos or social media much of anything. So that was great, but the disconnection to disconnect was incredible.
I mean, it was one of the best parts. Plus, experience really allows you to focus on the mission at hand and be in the moment and focus on what our mission was down at Tortugas. And I'm definitely still dealing with assimilating back into life, and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with emails and text messages, and everyone calling, asking what it was, and it's been taking some adjusting.
Isn't that amazing how cluttered and loud our lifestyle is? When we lived in the bush for a while in Africa,
I love that,
and it was like, okay, your sense of smell became more important than it is here, and your senses were always on, and you started to recognize different bird calls, and which way the breeze was flowing, and different smells. And then when you come in, there's so much here, you can't deal with it all in a city. I mean, there are smells and sounds, absolutely.
Oh yes,
but you have to single them out somehow and ignore the rest.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's cluttered, and I think we get into
that's the perfect word. I don't think I've ever felt so clear and focused in my thought processes as I did out there, because there wasn't any distractions. You know,
Yeah.
you wake up, you look at the trees, and you see how fast the wind's blowing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
look out at the horizon, and you see if there's any dark, ominous clouds out there.
Yeah.
And that's you
Yeah.
let your eyes
decide.
dictate what your reality is. You know, you don't have
Weather
this
reports.
constant access to
Oh.
connect.
Yeah, and
Can
I think people have
can
a
I
hard
give
time
them-
going the opposite
it's a-
way, going from
can-
a city, like if you go in New York City or Miami, right? And you go from Miami and you're used to and you're not living the way you guys live out in the
Yeah.
Keys, and then you go out to the Dry-Tortugas, you're gonna freak out for a little bit, I think.
Can I give them the tree exercise?
God, yeah, go.
Okay, come on. I think you guys are up for this. It's a tree exercise. It's what you do. You go and pick a tree that you really like, get down on your hands and knees, put your right hand on the trunk of the tree, close your eyes, and you wait till your heartbeat matches the heartbeat of the tree.
Okay.
It works.
Let
Now
me know what you,
we're gonna go in the magnolia tree and do
yeah,
it.
and then let me know. Just tell me if you can you actually feel the heartbeat of the tree. And then when it matches, then you can get up.
I got a tree in mind already.
Exactly.
cool.
I do as well.
Yeah, we
Awesome.
want to see
Great.
it. We want to see it. The tree exercise is killer. We've got a magnolia tree out where we are here in Georgia. They've let all the babies grow up in little suckers. So like you have this natural, like the way mangroves are, right? You can get in there and you have like a tree hole and you're like, that's it. So we're going to have to go do that now, Nancy.
I learned this from an African witch doctor, whatever, shaman, whatever you want to call them these days, who was talking about think twice before you cut down a tree because it's living and breathing and it can match your heart. I was like, wow, dude. So,
Yeah.
I'll definitely give it a shot.
Yeah.
oh, cool.
Do
Let
it.
us know. Let me know.
I can't wait. Actually, I'm very excited now.
Cool.
Go hug a tree,
Yes.
literally.
There's a
Go
couple
have
of
a
trees.
tree exercise.
So everyone, again, keep up with them. It's Armstrong_Austin or Austin_
It's Armstrong_originals.
originals. Okay, Armstrong_originals in Wilson with 2 N's on Instagram.
Ian Wilson _N or IanWilsonMedia.com.
Thank you guys so much. Everyone, keep
Awesome,
up
you
with the
guys.
National Parks Arts Foundation at nationalparksartsfoundation.org. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thanks all for joining us.
Lisa,
Oh, so
thank
much
you
fun,
much
you
for having
guys.
us
you
on.
so much. Yeah.